But of course, Angel Reese couldn't let this go unnoticed. She tried to spin the story, claiming that Clark's move was only about money. According to Reese, Clark's decision had nothing to do with the toxic atmosphere in the WNBA, it was all about cashing in. But if we dig a little deeper, it seems like Reese is trying to deflect attention away from her own personal issues. Reese has been tangled up in her own controversy, dealing with a steroid scandal that's hanging over her career. Instead of addressing her own problems, Reese chose to target Clark. She tried to distract everyone by accusing Clark of doing something wrong, but it's pretty clear that Reese is just trying to deflect attention away from her own issues. It's almost ironic when you think about it.
People talk about Caitlyn getting hate, but someone sat down and spent hours putting together an 8-minute video with interlude clips all to trash Angel. Why?
But when the entitled complaints are coming from Angel Reese, it makes news throughout the mainstream media.
Been at the center of a steroid scandal, accusing Caitlyn Clark of chasing money. Reese's career is in jeopardy, and instead of owning up to her own mistakes, she chooses to attack Clark. It's a classic case of deflection. Reese's reputation has been tainted by her steroid suspension.
Blah, blah, blah. From Angel Reese.
As a scapegoat to try to take the heat off herself. But the timing of Reese's attacks on Clark is also significant. Reese's career has been in freefall ever since news of her steroid suspension broke. While she was dealing with the fallout from that, Clark was continuing to thrive on the court. Reese, meanwhile, watched as Clark became the face of the WNBA. It's clear that Reese's resentment is tied to her own career struggles. Instead of rising to the occasion, she chose to tear Clark down in an attempt to take the focus off her own downfall. Reese's
entitled players in the WNBA just can't seem to understand is, you get what you put in, and right now, you are getting exactly what you deserve.
Focus off her own downfall. Reese's attacks on Clark aren't a coincidence. They came at a time when Reese was in the midst of her own scandal, and it's obvious that she wasn't happy watching Clark become the face of the league. Reese tried to shift the narrative by making Clark the villain, but it's clear that this was all about jealousy and trying to distract from her own problems. Clark, on the other hand, has stayed focused on what really matters, her game. She has let her performance on the court speak for itself, and it's clear that her rise to stardom is a result of her hard work and dedication. The reality is that Caitlyn Clark's...
So I think it's really just the fans, her fans, the Iowa fans, now the Indiana.
Not just a money grab. Angel Reese, on the other hand, seems more focused on deflecting from her own issues than supporting her fellow players. It's obvious that Reese's jealousy of Clark's success has fueled much of her criticism. But Clark, as always, stays above the drama, doing what she does best, letting her game speak for itself. While Reese continues to make headlines for all the wrong reasons, Clark is quietly proving that talent, focus, and hard work are the only things that truly matter in the game. Angel Reese has stirred up controversy once again, this time by commenting on Caitlyn Clark's decision to play in Europe. Reese quickly jumped to claim that Clark's move was motivated purely by the desire for more money, suggesting that Clark wasn't leaving the WNBA due to its toxic atmosphere, but rather for finance.
And she had a press conference where she cried and everybody's so mean to me. Well, she's continued the stupidity. I mean, she cheered on her teammate as she shoved Caitlyn Clark, knocked Caitlyn Clark in the head, and a bunch of other stupid stuff.
About escaping the constant drama, not just seeking a higher paycheck. Clark had been dominating on the court, but off the court, she faced constant negativity and unfair criticism from her peers and media outlets. Some accused her of racism, despite her never saying anything offensive. Instead of engaging with these accusations, Clark kept her focus on her game, not letting the drama derail her career. Yet, the negative...
Unacceptable, honestly. And, yeah, there's no place for it, and we've been professional throughout the whole entire thing, but I've never been called the things that I've been called on social media, and there's no place for it.
For racist comments made by random fans. It seemed like some players couldn't handle Clark's success and were more focused on tearing her down than celebrating her accomplishments. Meanwhile, Angel Reese, who had her own time in the spotlight, seemed frustrated that Clark was now the center of attention. Instead of supporting Clark, Reese became resentful. While Clark's star was rising, Reese was on the sidelines, watching as Clark's popularity soared. Rather than stepping up and working harder to earn her place, Reese seemed to channel her jealousy into negative comments about Clark. Clark's decision to go to Europe is not just about playing for a new team, it's about escaping the toxicity that was overshadowing her in the WNBA. The constant drama and negativity were taking away from her love of the game, and Clark chose to leave it behind in favor of a fresh start. She wasn't chasing money, as Reese suggested, she was leaving behind an environment that had become more about personal attacks than basketball. But of course, Reese couldn't let this go unnoticed. She tried to frame Clark's decision as purely financial, arguing that Clark's move had nothing to do with the toxic environment in the WNBA. However, this seems to be a deflection from Reese's own issues. Her career has—
No, it's going to Caitlin Clark fans are mean. And if Caitlin Clark fans are mean and they're white, where does this head? Oh, you know it goes to racist.
Steroid scandal. Instead of taking responsibility for her own situation, Reese used Clark as a distraction, attacking her to shift attention away from her own mess. The timing of Reese's comments is telling. While Clark was continuing to excel on the court, Reese was dealing with the fallout from her steroid suspension. Rather than addressing her own career struggles, Reese chose to lash out at Clark. This wasn't about basketball, it was about jealousy and deflecting from her own problems. In the end, Caitlin Clark's decision to go to Europe was a way for her to escape the toxic environment of the WNBA and focus on what she loves most, playing basketball. Reese, on the other hand—
Oh, now they found another victim. The fans of Indiana. Now, I'm going to side a little bit with these idiots.
—own issues rather than supporting her fellow players. The drama around Reese's comments only highlights her jealousy and frustration, while Clark stays focused on her game and continues to rise above the noise. Angel Reese has stirred up controversy again, this time over Caitlin Clark's decision to play in Europe. Reese has been quick to claim that Clark's move is all about chasing a bigger paycheck, trying to frame it as a financial decision rather than an escape from the drama surrounding the WNBA. But let's be real, this isn't about money, it's about Clark wanting to get away from the toxic environment the WNBA has become. While Clark has stayed focused on basketball, she's faced a growing storm of negativity, including ridiculous accusations of racism from fellow players and some media members. Despite being constantly under fire, Clark never responded to these false claims and kept her eye on the prize, her game. Unfortunately, the media frenzy around her only escalated, fueled by jealousy and a lack of professionalism from some of her—
attention, her notoriety is based off Caitlin Clark. Because she wins the national title, first thing she does, she mocks Caitlin Clark. And then she doesn't even celebrate with her teammates. So she's made it personal with Caitlin.
Time in the spotlight, seemed bitter that Clark's rise eclipsed her own. Rather than celebrating Clark's success, Reese and others chose to focus on tearing her down. This was never about basketball, it was about jealousy and resentment. Now, why is Clark heading to Europe? It's not just to play in a different league, it's to escape the negativity and drama that has taken over the WNBA. The constant attacks, the accusations, the pettiness, none of it had anything to do with her performance on the court. Clark realized she didn't need to stick around for that circus and decided to take her talents elsewhere. Of course, Reese couldn't just let Clark's move slide. She threw shade at Clark, calling it all a cash grab, but it seems like Reese might be deflecting from her own problems. Her name has been all over the headlines recently, but not for the right reasons. She's still dealing with the fallout from a steroid scandal that's hanging over her career. Instead of owning up to her issues, she chose to attack Clark, trying to make her look like the villain. But the truth is, Reese's career is in serious jeopardy due to her steroid suspension, and she seems to be